My name is Edgar Wagner. I think I know about half of the people in this room, maybe a little less. But I've been at Gordon Marketing for 10 years. And when I first got started here, well, I got started in Medicare Advantage right at the very beginning, along with Jay. I remember that, along with Janice. I remember that. Pete, I remember that. And we've had a really long and complicated road to the point at which we're here. And I'd like to kind of retrace that road because of the new opportunities that we have today. And I want to dispel any sense of cynicism that might still exist as a result of that road that we have traveled. I actually got here, and one of the first things that I was assigned was to become a manager of a lead program for a DSNP program that we had with a carrier that will not be mentioned.
Oh, it's not us then.
It was not you because you weren't in that market.
They probably don't even exist anymore.
Oh, yes they do. Yes they do, but that's part of the point. That DSNP plans were here today, gone tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And as an agent, you couldn't be sure if you enrolled them this year whether you would still have that plan for the next year, which made you skeptical and or cynical of what the opportunity truly is. Well, that long road that we have traveled, in my opinion, has been all about carriers getting their feet solidly on the ground. I've repeated this several times this weekend by virtue of the fact of having gone to the Anthem meeting in Las Vegas and another meeting for a carrier that won't be mentioned.
Hey.
We're not going to storm out.
No, we know there's competition.
Okay. So back in my day, there was a plan that Coventry introduced, that was $1,000 maximum out of pocket with $0 copays across the board, a private fee-for-service plan that was totally unsustainable. And the market has significantly changed, sometimes against plan, CMS plans, for example. And what we have found is that carriers can't really stay in this market without creating certain ground rules that have to do with reimbursements for doctors, and that we're gravitating more and more to HMOs and with a little bit of bump in price to a PPO. But HMO really is going to be the wave of the future. And really, you can start thinking about HMOs as gravitating to PPOs and RPPOs when you have the ability to cross over different networks. So it's kind of a upside down turn that we're going to be seeing. The point of all this, having been to Las Vegas and then Scottsdale, Arizona, is that I definitely sense a newfound confidence in the carriers and how they understand the risks that they're taking, not in the ACA, but in Medicare particularly. So, what I want to draw your attention to is this little map, if you can read it. Everything that you see in blue lines, those are all new HMO and DSNP counties. So, the point of this whole talk here that I'm giving you is about this slow, gradual change that carriers are making and tiptoeing into new markets, right? Not throwing themselves in RPPO fashion, right? RPPOs are very, very difficult to control. But tiptoeing into different markets, and this is the reason why I have this serious confidence, having been to these meetings and listened to people talk, that carriers have found their footing, and you no longer have to worry that if you enroll someone this year, you're going to lose them next year because the plan falls off the books. So, having said that little bit of marketing piece, I'm going to say the opportunity is huge, and I know this from having run a DSNP lead program. Okay, we ran that DSNP program using mailers, and agents then would get these leads from the mailers that we sent out. Back then, we were getting as high as 6% lead returns. In the years since, which we're talking 2006, 2007, we've seen lead costs significantly increase to the point that it becomes prohibitive. prohibitively expensive when you combine, for example, those commissions that decrease based on the month when they're prorated, right? So what I'm saying is that when you have a new DSNP plan in new counties, and you want to pursue that market, particularly for any of you in a Walmart program, and are going to be in that county, you're going to see a very significantly decreased cost to your lead generation because it's a brand new product. I'm going to guess that a mailer for this plan, and I'm going to say if you advertise the dental benefits, the hearing benefit, I'm going to say 4%, easy. Maybe better, depending on the design of it. So 4%, 40 leads. I generally speaking talk about a senior lead costing 40 to 50 bucks. Okay. Now you might see significantly decreased costs. That's enough for me talking. Okay. I'm going to introduce Greg LaManna, who heads up the whole DSNP plan. And he's going to talk to you about the structure of Medicaid in some pretty good detail, okay? But there are certain ways that you can understand the whole DSNP market with a coloring line and drug copays. But he's going to give the overview of the structure. Carmen is going to come later, and she's going to talk about the product benefits, and also website materials, marketing materials, and then we're going to have someone do an actual presentation, dual presentation. Okay, you ready, Greg?
Yeah. How you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Yeah. Coffee, ready, paying attention. Getting my morning classes back in college many years ago. So one, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. As Edgar said, my name's Greg LaManna. I'm the Director of Product Innovation. I support the East region. Ohio and Indiana is not in the East region. I live in Ohio. I support the East region. But part of my role here is, as Edgar said, is I oversee the program lead for duals across all of Anthem. So what that means is I don't design every dual product, but I manage it from an operations perspective, where we're going, what we're doing, all of our state relationships, all the contracts that we sign are all negotiated by me personally. So a lot of travel, but I really love what I do. I've been in the dual space since 2008 when I got into healthcare. So would it be helpful to give my background, so just gives you guys a flavor for what I've done. So went to Florida State, so Garnet backpack. But so went to Florida State, major in philosophy, political science, so not healthcare related, didn't want to be in healthcare. Graduated, ran some political campaigns, some congressional races, and I was recruited by WellCare just after the raid from the FBI, so you guys may have been familiar with that. So
Yeah.
so they get raided by the FBI. I was living in Boston, didn't know anything about it, so I went on the website, wellcare.com, and didn't have anything on the website. I'm like, oh, they seem like a pretty decent company, right? And so I before I used Google, and so interviewed with them and was like, oh, I'll do this for a little while, a couple of months, a year maybe, and then I'll get back sort of into the political realm. And so duals had just started to come out, and so I was reading when I wasn't traveling for them, going to different states. I was reading a lot on duals, and so one day, a year in, my boss said, "Hey, you've really been good on this dual stuff. Do you want to get involved?" And so ever since then, I've been involved in healthcare. I've done multiple jobs with them, and then came over to Anthem a couple of years ago. And so once I joined Anthem, the president of Medicare for Anthem, Mark Russo, and I had worked together for many years at WellCare and knew that I had run duals there, so he asked me to run duals for Anthem. And so the reason I gave a little bit of that background is because to what Edgar said, is Anthem is a traditionally Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, right? In most of our markets, we do have the Amerigroup brand, and then Simply in Florida. But we were not in the dual space. We weren't. It wasn't a legacy thing. It wasn't things that we had thought about as a Blues organization. It sort of came by way of integration and purchase of Amerigroup that really opened our eyes to the DSNP world. And so we just launched duals and the Blue products in 2015. So still new to it as an organization from the Blue perspective, had some experience, what we call on the green side, which is Amerigroup. And it sort of ties into the first couple of slides here. I don't have the clicker, but sort of like where we were, where we're going, right? So 2014, heading into 2015, just in what we call the green markets, right? Where we had an existing Medicaid presence after purchasing Amerigroup, where they were predominantly Medicaid plan, Florida, Tennessee, the Virginia area. Where we had some Medicaid presence in that market, we focused on the DSNP because it's a companion product, right? If you have a Medicaid product, you can cross-sell those members into a dual product if you have duals in your Medicaid program, right? So small presence, Florida, Maryland, Virginia. Virginia is now a Medicare, Medicaid plan state, so we'll have some more on that at a later side. And we were about 12th nationally in DSNP enrollment and about 2.5% of market share. So again, very small, very focused in limited markets, mainly on the East Coast of the United States. So where we're going, this is not the updated map for next year. So the training for next year will be coming out in a couple of weeks. I just literally finished it maybe a day or two ago and has to go through the internal folks. But we're going to do even more expansion in 2017. Edgar talked about what we're doing here in Indiana. But you can see this map is dramatically different, right, than the previous map. And it is here to stay, I can tell you that for a fact. We are heavily invested in the DSNP business. I'm constantly looking at new markets, building new relationships. I was actually in Indiana meeting with the Medicaid director about a month and a half ago, talking about some really interesting things for future years. So we're definitely committed to the marketplace, as you can see from the growth here. And then once the new map comes out in another week or two, you'll see we've expanded into 40 counties in Virginia. We've added another county, another couple counties in Florida, as well as Indiana and other markets across the West Coast as well. So understanding dual eligibles, right? It's a joint program, right? Dually eligible, the name sort of should give it away, right? So this Venn diagram, right? So it's about 55 million Medicare beneficiaries today. There's 68 million Medicaid beneficiaries. You'll see this number vary from like research to research you read. This number is based on a company called Altegra, and they look at the number of dual eligibles and they say, we know that there's probably another 2 million people that would be dually eligible if they signed up for one program or the other, just haven't done it, right? So the number you'll see at like CMS or whatever will say there's 11 million duals. We think there's a little bit more than 13 million. When you factor in that there's a lot of folks that, and you guys run into this all the time, right? They may be low income, but just never filled out an application for Medicaid. They have Medicare, but they didn't know how to go about filling out for Medicaid. Or they're on Medicaid and just never did the Medicare work because they hadn't aged in yet, right? They're disabled, but just had never gotten the process to become Medicare eligible. So again, huge opportunity here. Most of these 13 million members are going to be where you think they are, right? Florida, California, Arizona, New York. The bigger markets, Indianapolis, Chicago, and Illinois, near where I live in Toledo. So the big urban areas are really the largest concentration. And to give you a quick example, in Virginia, when I was looking at expansion for 2017, over 70% of the eligibles were in 4 counties in Virginia. So Fairfax, Richmond, and then the sort of Tidewater, Newport News area, Virginia Beach. Right, so 70% of the duals are in 4 counties, and there's 134 counties in the state of Virginia. Right, so that tells you that they're sort of concentrated in large urban areas. Right, so there's 3 types of special needs plans. I don't know if you guys have sold all of these different types of products, but there's an institutional SNP, and those are for folks that live in a nursing home, or what we call having an institutional level of care, which means they require sort of that institutional level of care but live at home. And so that's what I-SNPs are for, is really dedicated to those folks that have an institutional level of care, whether in a facility or living at home. Chronic SNPs are a product that's offered in around 15 disease types. So CMS comes out with every year with disease types that they consider sufficient enough to meet a special needs plan for them, right? So most popular ones are diabetes. I'm sure you guys are familiar with seeing some of those in the marketplace. Diabetes SNPs, chronic heart failure, COPD. Sometimes you'll see HIV/AIDS, but they're very small and they're in most markets like Georgia, California, where they're sort of managed a little bit more closely. But again, by far and away, it's the diabetes SNPs or ones that combine multiple disease types: diabetes, COPD, CHF, and the like that will be included in those types of products. And then lastly, it's the most popular because what you'll end up finding is most of the folks that enroll in this plan, and over 60% of the folks that would qualify for this plan, qualify for this plan. They're all duals because they're in an institution. They've either spent down all their assets or they live at home and they've spent down their assets paying for that private health care in their home. That most of them are dual eligible. So the most popular product and the most widely offered are dual eligible SNPs because it's the lowest common denominator, right? Less products, one-stop shopping, you can provide sort of all of the specificity of the other products within one product, right? We'd be able to say, hey, we're gonna offer one plan, it's gonna have all these great benefits, you're dual eligible already, why do I need to carve out a diabetes or another type of product when you sort of have the catch-all there at the bottom? And so we're introducing C-SNPs in a couple of markets this year, sort of as our trial run. Nothing here in the central region, unfortunately. But we do have a large number of D-SNPs nationwide, and those numbers are going to continue to grow as we enter not only new markets in terms of new states, but also new service areas as well. So who are dual eligibles, right? So it's what you think that they are. They're typically, they meet both requirements for Medicare and Medicaid, but they're the most vulnerable subgroup, right? So some studies you'll see is about, for Medicaid, I think it's about 20-something, 23, 24% of their Medicaid population is dually eligible, right? That number is skewed slightly because of the large populations that are under TANF. You guys know what TANF is?
No.
So TANF is temporary assistance for needy families. It's basically money and health care for moms and kids, right? Not dually eligible folks.
State or federal?
That's a state program, right? So it's a state program. Most of them will call it different things in the state, like you'll hear a different name for the program, but essentially it's TANF, right? And then there's CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Plans, right? So those are the majority of the members that you'll see from a Medicaid perspective. So there's about 23-24% of Medicaid folks are dually eligible. They account for almost 40% of overall Medicaid spending, right? So you can see that they are a more sickly, more costly population. So it's a mix of over 65 and under 65, right, who qualify for disability. So it's not always, hey, you're 65 and you're lower income, so you qualify for Medicaid. It's, you know, you're qualifying for Medicare because you're disabled, right? And you may also have low income as well. And we talked about that, right? So lower health status, I don't know if you guys know this, but they have typically report anywhere between 4 and 6 chronic illnesses per person. That's the average. There's anywhere between 4 to 6 chronic illnesses per dually eligible member. So more costly and a little bit more difficult to manage.
So they have to be qualified for both Part A and Part B?
Yes, yes. Just like any regular Medicare product, they have to qualify for Part A and Part B. And that's one of the things you'll run into is folks have not elected one or the other. And so you sort of have to get them, especially on the disabled side, they may get one and not get the other one for a variety of reasons. So what is a D-SNP? So D-SNPs are plans designed specifically to meet the needs of this population. So I'm sure you guys have looked at benefits and figured out, hey, why are these plans designed the way that they are? Why do they not have a transportation benefit, you know, possibly, or why do they have a really rich dental benefit, but they're not offering you know, eyewear? So what we try to do is wrap benefits. So it seems if the state Medicaid is really rich, like for California, for example, or New Jersey. In New Jersey, if you need a pair of glasses, the state will give you a pair of glasses. If you run them over with your car, they'll give you a new pair of glasses. If you throw them in the ocean, they'll give you a new pair of glasses. There's no limit to the number of pair of glasses that you can receive, right? So it's tough to be able to then say, okay, we're going to give you a $100, $150 allowance when the Medicaid benefit is better because you can get a pair of glasses and you break them and do anything to them, you get a new pair of glasses. Most states offer unlimited transportation. So plans will not put on unlimited transportation, or they may put on 24 trips, 4 trips, may put on no trips because the Medicaid benefit might be so rich in that market. It could be cost efficient for us to spend those dollars in other locations. Does that make sense? So really we have to look at each state as we design these benefits to figure out what they offer on the Medicaid side to best be able to meet the needs of the beneficiaries. So for example, in New Hampshire, I don't know if any of you guys do business in New Hampshire, but the state doesn't allow dual plans. So we have a product that looks and feels like a D-SNP, but is not a D-SNP. And they love it because it has a comprehensive dental benefit. The state doesn't provide that on the Medicaid side. So one of the reasons I designed it that way is because the state doesn't provide those benefits and services, so now it's more attractive to them to enroll in our product because we have dentures and extractions and fillings that weren't typically covered under the Medicaid plan. Similarly in Florida, if you're under the age of 21 or 22, you don't get dental at all. So to the extent that you have a dual eligible person that is 18, 19, for a variety of reasons, this is a product that they would potentially want to enroll in because we have such a strong dental benefit, right? So these are the things that we look at and other plans look at each year when they're designing their products to make sure that we can offer the most, not only competitive, but also something that works with what the member is currently receiving today. So spend down. So this is one of the #1 questions that I get from all brokers, not just this particular agency, and even internal folks is, what do we do with a spend down? What is a spend down? Why don't we enroll folks in the spend down? So a spend down, essentially people have too much income to qualify for Medicaid. But if they could spend just a little bit of their money, they would qualify, right? So if they found a way to lose it from the mailbox to their house, right, they'd be able to qualify for Medicaid benefits. Not every state has a spend down. I think Indiana eliminated theirs last year or the year before. Ohio is in the process of eliminating theirs now. But a lot of states do use this tool to be able to qualify more folks without sort of breaking the budget. So who can get spend down? Children under the age of 21, adult over 65, disabled or blind, so they're part of what we call ABD Medicaid, which is age, blind, and disabled. Families with one or both parents absent, dead, disabled, or out of work, right? So essentially, if you think about it this way, the federal poverty level for Medicaid in a random state is 133%. So if you qualify for what we call QIMBY status, right, qualified Medicare beneficiary, you have to have equal to or less than 133% of Medicare. In order to qualify for Medicaid.
Federal poverty level.
Yes, excuse me, yes, federal poverty level, thank you. So in order to qualify for Medicaid, you have to have, let's say, 100%. You have to be at 100% of the federal poverty level or less. So there's that 33% gap. So what they'll say is you have to spend that, whatever that dollar amount is, between 133 and 100, so that you get Medicaid benefits as well, right?